my love? Have they gone to the garden where the tree of life grows tall?
So thank you for talking to me about your new album. So it just came out on Friday, right?
It did.
What was that like?
So,
what was the day like for you?
The day was spent mostly in solitude. I kind of wanted to maybe have some sort of celebration and host some people at my house, but then that felt a little bit overwhelming to me. I am a bit of an introvert, and I love people and I love human beings, but I just decided that I would sort of spend the day in a reflective state.
Okay. Very good.
I was very thankful. I was thankful. I prayed. I talked to family, and it was a big achievement for me. It was my first solo album.
Right. So what does that mean to you?
Well, it really feels like it was a pivotal moment in my life and my career. I've spent the last 15 years playing music with my brother, and I sort of have had the umbrella of his love and his guidance. And now I'm embarking on this new solo journey, and it is empowering, and it's also frightening.
Right. Okay. And you're on Third Man Records, right? So that's kind of interesting as well. How did that happen?
So one of my good family friends, Warren DeFever, he is the head mastering engineer there. And he and Elliot, my older brother, they've been great friends for years. So I sort of grew up just looking up to Warren and his musical styles and musical endeavors. And he came out to LA a couple of weeks before I actually started writing the album.
Right.
And then I just started writing these gospel tunes, or these songs that were kind of inspired by gospel music. Really, I just started writing these songs, and they happened to be about God, and they happened to talk about Jesus. And I was like, maybe this is just a conceptual album, and I'm going to write all praise songs, and they're my hymns and my well, so I called Warren, and I was like, hey, I think I'm going to write a song, like a whole album of praise songs. And he was like, I think that's a brilliant idea. And so for the next few months, I was kind of having this back and forth with him.
Right.
And once I got about 15 songs together, we kind of whittled it down to the 12 that make the album, Mercy. And he was like, I'm going to show this to Third Man Records. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because it's a majorly beautiful record label. And I always felt a little bit like I wasn't cool enough for them. I was like, they're the cool kids. Yeah. And I'm some sort of square singing about Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I was intimidated, and I was like, there's no way they're going to go for this. They're going to think my music is shit, and they're just going to say, see you later. Right. But it turns out they were like, we ain't afraid of gospel music. We ain't afraid of Jesus. Right. And they brought me on, and it was kind of the best. I mean, it is the best home I could have asked for to, house these songs. Yeah. Such a great team of intelligent, loving people.
Cool. So when were most of the tracks recorded? Were they kind of pre-COVID, during COVID? That's the way we kind of look at everything these days, I guess. So.
I know. I'm like, my album had nothing to do with COVID.
All right.
But yes, I wrote them during the lockdown, I guess we call it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Are you vaxxed?
It's a little slow rolling out here in New Zealand. We're free and clear as far as we can do anything. We have live gigs, and we can go to shows and stuff. But the vaccine is here, but they're kind of doing it slowly. So I'm sure I'll have one eventually.
I mean, I wasn't dying to get it, but I did.
Yeah.
And then they recalled the one that I got like a few weeks later.
Okay.
And I was
That's always
like,
a good sign.
I'm like, perfect. It's in me permanently.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's not like having your car recalled. You can't just give it back. Get a trade in. Man, oh man. So what's the vibe like? I mean, do you think about those things? Are you worried at all about your health and other people's and being able to function normally?
I think that I am protected right now. I think that I'm healthy. I think my body is going to be just fine. It's the scientists have figured some stuff out, and
Right.
you know, I'm just going to. I don't want to live my life in fear. So I feel fine. I feel good, and I did write these songs during COVID, and
Okay.
and I wrote most of them in Los Angeles. I did half of the record on the floor of my boyfriend's living room. I had a sort of little writer's nest. I had my typewriter. I had a knockoff Dove guitar, which is just right over here.
Oh, yep, that's it.
This thing, like normally, you know, a Dove costs like $2,000,
Right.
and this was $150.
Did I? Can you hear the difference?
No.
Of course not.
Exactly. But I liked the idea of having a bird on my guitar, and
Right.
so I had that. I had a Wurlitzer, and I went for it. I just, these songs came out of me very quickly,
Right.
and just the songs, it really felt like they were writing themselves and just asking me to sing them. And I had a lot of clarity when I was writing this record, and even though I was processing my grief, it's like the lyrics were just so, they were intentional, and I just felt sort of, I had no judgment toward myself while I was writing these songs. And previously, I've been very critical of my lyrics, my
Right.
melodies, my instrumentation. And there was no room for that on this body of work, because I was going through a tremendous loss, and I just allowed myself to write freely and openly. And the songs are quite literal at times, and I wasn't gonna let anything stand in my way. I wanted to have freedom, you know, and healing.
Was it easy? Was it difficult to do? Did you have to go through some kind of process internally to get yourself to be in that space?
Well, part of the reason why it was good to be writing on the floor is because really, like, there was so much physical crying,
Right.
you know, and then just like being able to sort of curl up on the floor and just go there. Like, I spent months on the floor. Sometimes I was writing, sometimes I was weeping. And it was, you know, death changes you. And I don't know if you've lost your parents, or have you lost your parents?
Yes, just fairly recently, in the last couple of years. Yes.
Really? Both of them?
Yep, kind of within a year of each other. Yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry.
Well, they were getting on, but it's still hard to deal with, you know.
It's just, your parents are so important. They're such amazing figures. I mean, not everybody can say that about their family, but I had a really.
And it must have been really tough for you, because it was such an abrupt, out of the blue kind of event that took them. So yeah, I can't imagine what that'd be like.
It just, it paralyzed me for a long time. I didn't really think I could get back to life. I didn't really know who I was I was so uprooted, and I felt like a lot of my identity was actually, you know, tied to my father.
Right.
He shaped me in so many ways, and he was supposed to be here, you know, he was so present and alive in my life. And so I didn't start writing the songs until about 6 months after he died. And then once music found me again, it just sort of put the lyrics on my tongue and put the songs in my heart. And it was a gift, really. These songs were a gift to me.
Yeah. And I've seen you've made a few videos in the process of getting this out. There's one for Home at Last, where you're kind of in an abandoned chapel. Saying, what was it like to go through that process and make those visualizations of the songs?
Answer my prayer and a great man falls. Answer my skies collapse. Answer my prayers, the joy in this world. Answer my home at last.
Well, I love making films, and I have to make a visual component to go along with my songs, because I'm thinking visually as well, and I'm not just thinking about the music. I like to make art, and of all varieties, and film is one of those things that I'm not that good at it, but I certainly enjoy doing it. That I found this little chapel. I saw the stained glass, and when I saw it, I was like, that looks like me. That looks like a church I would build.
Yep.
It was just kind of a beautiful little place, and I reached out, and the woman, she rented it to me for the day for very little money.
Right.
I told her the story of the album, and she was super generous, and she was like, come on over, bring your friends, bring your family, sing some songs. That was a sweet day of playing music with the people. I like to bring my friends together for these music videos, because there wasn't really a community around this album in terms of making it. It was just such an isolated process. And so now I get to kind of share the music with my friends and my family. And that's been a nice part of this journey.
Well, it kind of makes me think of the song Crying in the Chapel, because you were in a chapel. And I'm wondering, did you listen to a lot of gospel music growing up? And was that part of your musical kind of education?
You know, yes and no. It's like I don't have deep roots in gospel music, but I did grow up in the church, and hymns have always been a major part of my life. You know, it's my grandmother still plays hymns on the piano, and I sing with her, and I have some favorites, and they're just beautiful love songs. They're so poetic, and a lot of hymns are borrowing from the Psalms, and I found that language to be very poetic and helpful to me while writing this album. I referenced the Psalms at times, and it's just such beautiful language. So yes, I grew up with it, but I have such an amalgam of influences, you know, outside of church music.
Gotcha. Yeah. There's another video for Talk to the Lord, where apparently there's a three-dimensional piece of artwork that you've created for it. Tell me about that.
If you are sad, you dry your tears. Talk to the Lord. Talk to the Lord.
Well, first of all, I haven't even acknowledged your stellar record collection.
Oh,
like so many records.
There's
that
more
I'm
back
like,
there, it is kind of
I'm staring at it, and I'm like, well, this is one of those things where I'm like, why haven't I said anything? So impressive.
Oh, thank you. I got carried away. Shipping them from the States to here was a major achievement.
Oh my goodness. Are there some good record stores out there?
Yes, there are. Yes. Yeah, there's one right down the street called Southbound and another one called Real Groovy around the corner. So, yep, there's good stuff. Oh, yeah, the first place I went to, because I ran a little record label back in Rochester. And when I first arrived, literally the day I arrived, I went to this big record store, Real Groovy, and I was told that it was the place to go. And they were playing one of my records from my label over the sound system as I walked in. So I was like, I'm home,
Really?
man. It was amazing.
That's so sweet.
So anyway,
Great
yes,
story.
yeah. So those are the LPs, and then there's about 10,000 LPs back there, and about 15,000 7-inches in the other room.
Wow.
So
That is impressive.
and
Now, you know what? I will say the only collection that compares to yours that I've seen was early Wild Bell days, my previous band.
Yep.
Craig Coleman, who's now the head of Atlantic Records, he was under Ahmet Bergman.
Right. Yeah.
He is such a cool dude. He's been sober his whole life, super smart, went to Brown. He's kind of like a lost member of the Beastie Boys or something. He would like call me and be like, Natalie, I'm over the moon for you guys. You have to sign with Atlantic, and like just like send me these like voicemails where I was like, I'm so torn between Atlantic Records and Columbia Records, two of the greatest labels.
They're pretty,
and then,
as far as legacies go, both of them are kind of chock full of it. So yeah, that would be a tough choice.
I ended up going with Columbia, but there was a day when Craig Coleman had my brother and me over to his house, and he had the gnarliest record collection. It just took up about, I think, 12 walls. It was like crazy, multiple rooms. He had all of his, he had a reggae collection. He had his Afrobeat. He had his gospel, soul. It was so good. How are yours organized?
Just straight alphabetical by artist. It's the only way to go. I can't divide genres. I mean, where would you put David Bowie? So that's the way it goes. And I have two daughters who are now they're in their 30s and 40s, and they're very record oriented as well now. So
that's so cool.
So that's where they're going when I'm gone. Over to them. Yes.
Well,
so you're going to tell you about your little artwork and talk to the Lord. We have to get back to you.
Okay. Well, so there are two videos that I made for Talk to the Lord.
Okay.
One is I made some flags. I actually have one hanging in my apartment here. Just, do you see that guy?
Yep. Make me an instrument of your peace.
Make me an instrument of your peace. So I made a bunch of flags, and I made these box sculptures, which are very childlike. Most of my art is kind of childlike, and I think that's, especially when I was writing this song, when you have lost both of your parents, you go back to like this childlike version of yourself, because I went back to my youth in a way, and I thought about the songs that I grew up listening to, and some of these songs are really almost nursery rhyme, or they're, you might not realize it, but it's like all of my friends' children love this record.
Oh,
because
that's
they can
interesting.
sing along. They love Talk to the Lord.
Right.
I want people to be able to sing along to my songs. So I made some flags, and I made some very simple box sculptures, and then I had my friend Danka film it. It was a 2-man operation, and I tend to get a little overbearing sometimes when it comes to directing, and the boxes were blowing over because they weren't weighed down, and I ended up, it was slightly disastrous. I mean, every music video is slightly disastrous, and nobody knows, but there's just so much work that goes into it, and so much physical labor. and then, you know, things don't always go according to plan. And, but I really enjoyed making that video and just sort of creating the installations. And then I ended up on my birthday in February, I ended up flying back to Chicago and having some of the Chicago Children's Choir sing that song with me. And it was really a fun day. And I kept being like, is this selfish that I'm having kids sing with me on my birthday? And my brother,
what could be better?
you know, he's like, no, dude, this is genius. He's like, how did you even pull this off? You've got kids just singing with you all day.
What did the kids think about it?
Well, it's kind of fun to, I mean, I'm not trying to impose my religious beliefs on anybody,
right?
But it's kind of fun to sing church songs with all types of people, because it doesn't have to be so specifically religious. You know, it's these songs really have to do with me finding the light through my greatest darkness. And the lyrics are sometimes explicitly about Jesus or God, but I really think this music is for everyone. And I think that everyone has gone through some loss in their life.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So with the record having just come out, are you able to perform live? Do you have a plan in place, or are you just kind of waiting to see what happens with stuff?
Well, we do have a tour that's happening overseas. I'm not going to get to New Zealand this time, but I would love to come at some point. So can you please arrange for that to happen?
I might be able to swing a few things. You never know.
But there's like a 3-week tour in London, Paris,
nice.
Europe, and that's in November. And so hopefully that happens. I don't know what that's going to look like, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. And how do you see a live performance? Are you solo? Or are you working with the band? What's the plan?
I like to play with people on stage. I like to have my ensemble with me. I'm figuring out who my musicians are going to be right now. I've got, you know, a 4-piece, a working 4-piece, but I definitely want some singers, and it's just coordinate. You need to coordinate. You know, I've got one of my favorite singers, Elisa. She's in Chicago, and I've got some boy in Los Angeles, and then I have a couple of people in New York and Michigan. So it's kind of like, okay, who do I need? Who is my core? And I know a lot of great musicians. I gotta get it right, you know? But yes, I'm working on it, and I envision some singers with me, most importantly, because I want to really stack these harmonies and bring it.
I bet you do. And so thinking more further ahead, are you planning on making more gospel like records, or are you thinking outside of those parameters for the next thing?
I think this record was so specific to an event, you know, to my father's death. And so this is a collection of songs that I wrote for him. It's a tribute to him. And I think that moving forward, I'll write about love and loss. Every album I've ever made has to do with love and loss. And so that's what I'll continue to do. I don't know if it will specifically be faith-based music or, you know, religiously oriented. I don't know if I need to do that. I'll always have God in my music. I just don't know if I'll sing about it so obviously.
Right.
I'm starting to write some songs. I'm starting to write some songs. I kind of want to make my Laurel Canyon album, you know, like I want to my Joni Mitchell Blue, you know, just have a beautiful 1970s some live instrumentation. I want to get the people together, and I want to make my best musical album.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, you talk about Blue and Tapestry. Those records are 50 years old now. It's just holy man. And I bought them when they came out. It's scary how time does that. So, and the great thing is most of those people are still around, still making music, the band and the people who played with them and them themselves. So yeah, it's got to be kind of an inspiration to do that.
I mean, you can't, when you think about the musicians on these records, like Joni Mitchell, her band, I mean, Miles Davis, okay, like everybody had the best bands. Like
right.
the musicians were so much better then. I'm sorry to say, kids in LA aren't practicing 8 hours a day. Like they're just not, and you're not getting like the caliber of musician that once was, which I also like I could afford to practice the piano way more. My chops are like they're lame right now, man.
There's a lot of distractions. It must be hard to concentrate on that. You got there's so many options available when you think about it, and of course it's easy to go, oh, let me just do this now and I'll get to that later. And yeah, it's got to be hard to focus.
Sure, but I'm not. I'm analog, and I do have my cell phone, and I am on my phone. But it's like I don't like the phone. I want to go to the mountains and just turn things off and touch the earth and play an instrument and just pray and be thankful and build things and make things. That's what I would like. I've found that I'm on my computer and my phone a lot during this campaign, just because there's my labels in Nashville, you're in New Zealand, and so technology can be a great asset. But I think it's hurting us in a lot of ways. And I hope eventually all of our cellular devices just spontaneously combust.
That would be something.
Simultaneously.
Right. Oh man, that's I'll have to think about that. Oh man. Okay. Well, that's something to think about. So have you had a good week now that the record's out? Are you feeling like things are happening and you're getting the sound out to the people who you want to hear it?
I think that the music is doing some good work right now. I think that it is acting as a healing agent in people's lives. The amount of beautiful messages and letters and emails I've received just over the last few months about how this has helped people get through a death themselves, how their spouse is currently dying and my song is their favorite song. There's some heaviness that I'm witnessing, how broken the world is and how much pain there is in this place. And I also see how powerful music is. And I've never experienced my music working in people's lives like this.
Well, thank you. Thanks for making the record. Yeah. Oops, sorry. I think I just blew up my cell phone. It fell out of my pocket.
Well, thank you for being here with me today and for asking.
My pleasure, believe me. Yeah, I'm glad we could talk. So come on down when you get a chance. We're open.
Excellent. I would love to visit soon, and I'll definitely reach out to you when I make it over there.
Yep, you can play my piano.
Excellent.
All righty. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye-bye.